Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake Gino, my husband and co-host Gino Barbaro.
Hey Julia, how you doing?
Hey Gino, I'm good. So we had a great boot camp this past weekend. We met a lot of really awesome people. And we did get a great question from two of the ladies there. So I just want to say hi to Valerie and Jackie. They had a great question. They wanted to know, how do we get the kids involved in real estate?
So for me, let's take it a step back. And what I want to do is I want to do the next few shows on the Multifamily Zone all about money, how it relates to the family. We'll talk about, in the next upcoming podcasts, how to discuss money with your kids, how to give them a good financial backing, good financial background, what money is all about. We're going to define what money is. We're going to define how to set goals for money. All of that are going to be in future podcasts. But for this one right here, I want to just introduce the 3-step framework that I think is going to really work for everybody. I call it save right, invest right, and donate right.
Yeah, that sounds great, actually. I want to just say, so we're going to be talking about the basic, like the solid foundation of teaching the kids just money, finances, responsibility. And as we talk about with parenting and spousals and all, this also, it's how we see it. We are the first role models to the kids.
So for us, this is also going to roll into how you can start in putting them into your business, right? Because they need to have a foundation first, and you need to have open dialogue with your children about what's going on. I have a lot of experience with this because I had the restaurant for years, and all of my children started working at a young age. They all worked up front with grandma. They all worked up front in the counter, and they started seating people. Some of them were busing people. There were hosts. They were working the cash register. So they got that experience one-on-one, and it was great because they would go in, they would deal with people, and they would it was awesome because it was a family business. So they like to go to work.
Yeah, that right there is what is super important, is they like to go to work. So what is our view on working? What is our view on money?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. The first thing we need to really talk about and dive into is what Julia described before. We are the children's role models. Now, picture this. You go to a doctor's office, you go for a checkup. The doctor there is 250 pounds. They smoke, they're unhealthy, and they're telling you how to lead a healthy lifestyle. Now, how does that work, Jewel? How do you feel about that?
I'm not feeling too confident.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing, let's another example that I can just pop up. You go onto a website and you want to learn about how to become financially free. You click on this website and this person's living this lavish lifestyle. He's barely above water. He's got credit card debt. He's got financial debt, and he's going to teach you how to become financially free. How does that sound, Joel?
I think I'll change my website.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is kids can call BS.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to start teaching kids about money, we need to at least have our financial house in order, or at least we need to be trying to live up to those principles. Nobody's going to be perfect about the principles. The overweight doctor, he might have struggles, but if you're looking for him for advice, he's not living the right lifestyle. We have to be that for our children. We are stewards of our own money. If we want our children to be successful with it, we have to be the role models. If me as a father, if I want my daughters to marry a great guy, they have to look at me, and they're going to be mirroring how I have my relationship with them personally. So it's the same thing with money. If I have a scarcity mindset, if every time they ask me for something, I snap at them, I say, I can't afford it. If every time they're looking at me and I'm acting in a negative way, those are cues. Kids take cues, and kids can call BS. So I think the first thing is you have to be a role model for your children and try your best and be open and honest with them. And when you do make a mistake, don't be afraid to say, hey, I made a mistake. Hey, I overpaid for something. I shouldn't have bought that years ago. Or, hey, we're in debt now. I'm trying my best to get out of it. I'm in this learning process with you. And that's how it was for me for the last several years before I got into real estate. We were doing fine, but I I was at that point where my kids saw that I didn't like work, even though I
Mhm.
worked hard. And I was explaining to them why I was working, why I was doing what I was doing. And then when I was getting into the real estate business, I would tell them why I'm working extra hours and what I'm doing this for, and painting them the picture. So the first lesson is you have to be a role model, and you have to check your own financial house in order, and your own actions, because kids will mirror you. Kids will pick up on that, and they'll see what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, if you're not being consistent and you're not committing to what your goals are, anything you say will fall upon deaf ears.
Yeah, that's important. And for me, I wasn't working all these 20 plus years. So
She wasn't working out of the house. I always get into trouble with this. And I always ask people, well, I'm not working. I'm not working
yeah,
for
you
a
all know what I'm
job, but
talking about. Okay. I wasn't getting paid. How's that? Wasn't getting paid from working. But so my attitude is so important, because if my husband's the one, which has happened over many, many years, and I have to say that I regret doing this, but my husband was the one, hey, what is this credit card for? What, he was the one on top of it. And our attitude, my attitude, was pretty negative. Why do you always have to, question what I'm getting and all that stuff? Because I'm not really a big spender. I'm not really a big shopper. But my kids saw that. And that actually is a huge mistake that I made, that I look back and I'm like, you know what? I should have been more supportive. I should have been saying, yeah, you know what? That wasn't a good, you know what I mean? I should have been maybe even having that quiet conversation with you, not in front of the kids.
So this is a shout out to Jake. The 3 hits on the credit card: SAT, Starbucks, Amazon, and Target. It's really hard, everybody out there. It's really easy to start spending a lot of money. So shout out to you, Jake.
Yeah,
Starbucks,
that is a good
Amazon, and
one.
Target.
I'm not at Target because it's just maybe 5 miles from the house. And I feel like Amazon's closer. It's easier. I love Amazon.
So what I want to do really is, there's a few things that we know don't work in our household. And then I have a whole entire list of what does work. And let's start talking about the things that don't work, and then we're going to pivot into what does work. The first thing that doesn't work when you're trying to teach your child financial education is forcing them to read books on it. I tried with my 10 or 11-year-old to make her read The Richest Man in Babylon. That was like painfully death. Now she's just scarred. She doesn't want to read it anymore, right? She's 14
Yeah.
years old, and she's reading The Honeybee. She read The Honeybee. She loved it. She's reading right now. She's reading Jim Roman's book, 12 Pillars, and she's actually reading The Go-Giver right now. And she enjoys those books. Try not to cram the information down their throat, especially when they're young, because when they're 14 years old, they're at one maturity level. When they're at 16, they're at another. And when they're at 17, they're at another.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you read to them. That would probably be the best thing, but don't force anything on them that they don't understand, because they're going to hate it.
So one, I see my husband would do this for many years with, especially our oldest, Gabby, who is 20 now. And I would so he would come and say, this is what you need to read. And they would make a big deal the whole day, and he'd go off to work. So then I would have to deal with it the whole day. But we can look at it differently. Of course you could look at a book and say, this is definitely over their head. I'm not going to overwhelm them. Or we can say, you know what, Michael, I read this book. I think you might like it. I was thinking of you when I read it. It's all the way we introduce the book to someone. If I just say, this is what your next assignment is, here's the book, they might resist it. But hey, I was thinking about you when I read this. I really think that you'll get a lot out of it. Do you want to read through it together? Maybe you read a chapter, I read a chapter, we talk about it. There's other ways to introduce certain topics to the kids.
So what Julie is trying to say is, she's trying to plant the seed. And the empowering question that you should always ask your employees is, what do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
So Sophie, what do you think about reading The Richest Man in Babylon? Dad's written an ebook on this. It's really an amazing ebook. It's pretty easy to read. There's some principles and some stories in there about a shield maker and about a jeweler and about banking. Does that sound interesting to you? I think that's probably the best way to position it. But it's important that they choose, and you help you choose with them.
And also something is, like Gino was saying, is every year they're so much more mature. It's kind of incredible when you look back a year and how, they've grown so much. If a book is too much for them, or a lesson is too much for them, what if you said to them, you know what, is this a little bit over your head? Do you think we could wait till next year? Do you want to look at it again next year when you're a little older? And I think that will just keep it open until next year. So it's not this is too much for me, I don't want it.
The next one, Julie, is really crushing to most people, and it's forcing children to save money just for the sake of saving money. And what happens is, you develop this scarcity mindset as you become an adult. Why is mom and dad taking money from me? Where's this money going? And they're taking it from me. I thought I got it for my communion, or I thought I got it for a birthday or for Christmas, and now it's gone. They're putting it away. that will actually, I think, stunt the child's growth and make them say, I need to get this money. I need to spend it. I need that dopamine hit. Whereas you can start positioning it and giving them some power and saying, hey, I'm going to give Sophia again. Sophia, you got this money from Christmas. Do you want to spend it? And where do you want to spend it? Give them the choice of what they want to do with it. And we're going to talk about how to show value of the money. But you can also say, I have this little savings account here aside for you where we're putting a little bit of money away every year, every month for you. And it's growing. And whenever we need for something, whether we're going to buy a toy for you or a bike, or we just bought a tennis racket for her, the money's there. We're going to utilize it. But just to take away money from a child, especially when they're really young, it's really hard for them to understand that. As they get older, I always talk about the story with my son, Michael, who's 17 now. A year and a half ago, he wanted to buy that amplifier. He wanted to spend a ton of money on it. About 25% of his net worth. And I said to him, I will not allow you to do that. It was a struggle for him. Fast forward a year after that, he's on a deal with us. He invests that money. So now he made that connection between saving for an investment where you can invest the money to get a rate of return, as opposed to just saving and not being able to buy what you get. So that was a really huge connection for him. Don't make it painful for them. Make him understand that when we put our money aside, it's there. When we want to buy something, we can always go ahead and use that money to buy something.
Yeah, with this one, I feel like we've changed it so many times over the years, because again, you most of the time we're just figuring it out, just like everyone else. We're figuring out parenting, figuring out what's best for each child. Some kids do get it. Some kids do say, I got $100 for my birthday. Here, Dad, put this away, put half of it away. But to other kids, got $100 for my birthday. Why are you taking my gift?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're thinking as such a small child. And I've seen it before. And again, my husband will take it, go to the bank, and then I'm left with the kid at home crying. It's the same thing.
It's always my fault. That's the theme of the multifamily zone. It's always Gino's fault.
So much easier.
Really, she's talking about responsibility all the time, and she's telling me that it's my fault.
Oh, I'm joking. No, but it's important to have that open communication with the kids, age appropriate, of course. Little kids don't get it. Half the time they don't even know they got money. You just throw it in the bank. They have no idea. But for the most part, at some age, they do know. And it's so important that you talk about it with them. Listen to them. Say, what do you think? Do you want to put some aside for, maybe you want to save up for something later on? Have them be part of that conversation, instead of just like we've done in the past, said, okay, 30 goes here, 30 goes here, you get the rest,
Mm-hmm. So the next one is probably going to be controversial for people, but it's all about allowances. I don't think an allowance works. I think we want to teach our kids to work hard, and an allowance makes kids to work for money. I want my children, and I give you the perfect example of me this week. I've been on so many podcasts. I've been on so many shows. I've been creating so much content for the Jake and Gino community. I haven't seen any monetization of that. It's really delayed for me. I won't see the fruits of my labor until maybe 2 or 3 or 4 months away. Now, if I'm working for an allowance or for a paycheck, I'm not going to do all that work. That's not generating revenue for that work now, today, but it will in the future. And I know it will, and it'll pay off handsomely for me. So when you train your child to work for an allowance, and unfortunately, your children should be helping you take out the garbage. They should be doing the dishes. They should be helping you set the table. They should be straightening up their room. They shouldn't be getting paid for that. Now, as a caveat, when I told Sophia again and Veronica, can you guys wash my car? And it's great because they negotiate, right? It's awesome. It's a great negotiating skill. I say, I'll give you $10 or $20. And when they find out that the person charges me $50 or $60, they're like, Dad, really? I'm like, well, they have a skill. They're waxing the car. They're doing whatever they need to do. But I really would challenge you to think about the allowance and how that works. Now, obviously, when the child gets older and they're 14 and 15 years old, they can go out and get a job themselves. My Sophia, she went across the street to Publix. She's only 14. She asked for a job because she wants to get paid. And they don't have any jobs right now. But my son, 16 years old, he went out to Salt Life down the street as a busboy. They don't have to rely on that allowance. They go out and get paid. And it's great because it's always, to become a leader, you have to learn how to be told what to do than to be able to lead. So that job is great. So I challenge everyone out there to think about that allowance. And is it appropriate? Are you just giving a child to do something they already have to do? Those are things that you have to. When you go to work for an employer, they're not going to pay you extra to do certain things. They're paying you to do certain things, but don't think of it that way.
Yeah, allowance is, I feel like we maybe tried it a little bit at one point, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I almost found like it was more work than anything because, with all the charts you make and all the chore charts and all that stuff, I do. I feel like that it's a responsibility that we teach the kids. It is, it's time to clean up.
It's work that you got to do.
It's
It's
time to
work
clean
that
up.
you're not getting paid to do, and you got to do.
Right.
Stuff that, like, I'm preparing for this podcast, or I'm preparing for an investor meeting, or I'm not getting paid for that. Maybe I'm getting paid for the meeting, but that's something that it's all, we want to tell the kids that hard work is important in life. Work hard and then work smart. But if you can't work hard, no matter how smart you work, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that do work over here. So for the first thing that works, when you're talking with children and even with adults, the first thing is you want to have skin in the game. Now, what does that mean? If you're teaching your kids about investing and about money, they need to have some of their own money in the game. And for me, that was so eye-opening and revealing when my son invested with us on our first deal. All of a sudden, he's asking about owner draws. He's asking about refi and roll. Dad, when are we going to sell the property? How many units are vacant? What's going on this month? 6 months before that, he didn't even know about real estate. Now that he's intimately involved and he has his own money in the game, that's why it's amazing. That's why socialism does not work. Because if there's people out there that just don't care, they want a free handout, it's not going to work. But when you put money or your own skin or your own time or your own energy into a project, you're going to be more willing to go after that project.
Yeah, this goes back to the question that we originally had gotten from Valerie and Jackie, was how to get the kids involved in the business. And this, I from what we experienced, was the one way was to have them put money into a deal, even if it's $100, something. Show them the whole process and be excited about it from the very, very beginning, and talk easy, talk simple, And that was the one thing that opened up my son's eyes. And now Gabrielle is ready to put money into the next deal.
That's awesome. Baby steps. Next one. Show them the accounts. They have their savings accounts. They have their checking accounts. Teach them how to utilize those accounts. Maybe get a credit card when they turn 17 and tell them this is powerful. This is something where you pay every month. You use the money. You're using somebody else's money, but you're paying it off. Show them the bank accounts. Take the baby steps. Don't go too high level, but just incorporate it into everyday practice.
Yeah, just them seeing the bank. Bring them to the bank. Bring them to anywhere you're going where you have a credit card out. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but it's important for them to see a transaction. It's important for them to hear anything that you're talking about, because that's how they're going to learn.
Talk about money is the next one. Talking about money is very important. Don't be afraid and overwhelmed to let them know what money is all about. Money's energy. Give them the history of money. Tell them back in the day, we would use beads, we would use silver coins, gold, we would use other things. It's just a way to barter. If they understand that money, all it is to buy something that you have. And I give them the story of my grandpa, my dad, Vito. He was a farmer in Italy. They would make wine. They would have potatoes. They'd have livestock. And you know what? When his shoe had to get fixed, he'd have to go to the shoemaker, and they would barter. They didn't have money back then like they utilize it today. Now, money's going to be going into different forms, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin, other forms. Right now, it's fiat currency. And explain to them where fiat currency comes from and what it is and the value of money and inflation. We'll talk about that in a later podcast. But talk about money, and more importantly, use positive words. You've heard Robert Kiyosaki say this: I can't afford it. If you're telling your brain you can't afford it or it's too expensive, sometimes you should say, how can we make that work? Or, what can we do to make that work?
Yeah. I actually grew up in a house where that was a common theme. We can't afford it. And I have to tell you that there was something good that came out of it for me. And I realized that stuff doesn't buy me happiness, and it really doesn't. And it's the experiences and relationships and the memories that do. So that's something that, it's always those things where you think back from your childhood and you can take them all and you can see all the negative and take the negative into your life. But that was something that I noticed that, I took the positive from that.
So that's why Christmas, I get crazy during Christmas time, because stuff only buys temporary happiness, right? And there's nothing wrong with rewarding yourself, because that's just one way to keep yourself on the path. Because if you're always working, you're not enjoying your money, then why are you working it? And enjoying your money can say buying yourself a toy, buying your wife a toy, buying your family and friends a toy, donating the money. The third part of the leg is donate. Maybe that's a great way to actually enjoy yourself. So that's really important. This next one, this is number 6. We've gone through skin in the game, 1. Baby steps, number 2. Show them the accounts, number 3. Talk about money, number 4. Use positive words, number 5. Number 6, is show them the value of money. And this will be eye-opening because I love going to the store and popping in the credit card and letting them see that I just spent $650 at Costco. And they're like, Dad, what did you buy? Well, you're out in the store. Imagine that you're there and you're looking to buy a TV, and that TV costs $200. Now, I love picking on Sophia on this one. Sophia's going to work at Publix, and she's making $10 an hour at Publix, which is pretty good. It's above minimum wage, but it's $10. So the $10 an hour, she wants to buy a TV. How many hours does she need to work for that TV? She needs to work 20 hours to gross 200. So she probably needs to work 25 hours to make $250 to pay for that $200 TV. So now all of a sudden I've related it. I said, Sophia, how many hours do you work a week? Let's say she works 10 hours a week. You have to work 2.5 weeks to buy for that TV. Now, is it worth your time to buy the TV? Maybe it is, because she can say, Dad, I'm going to keep that TV and use it for the next 3 years. It's worth it. But let them understand with the time value of money, what, however time they're using to make that money and then to buy that object that they're getting. Let them understand what that value of money is to them. Then they can be more objective and say, I don't want to work 2.5 weeks for a TV. I can go buy a used TV for $50. And that's all of a sudden they're getting into the price value relationship.
Yeah, that's so important. That just happened very recently. And I have to say, I was very impressed. You did good.
You like that, huh? It's not my fault this time, huh?
But you know what? It's important too. And like, even when we're going grocery shopping, when we're going to buy something, I do have the kids in front of me where the scanner is, where you put your credit card. Half the time they're putting the credit card, they're seeing the price, because I want them to be aware of what we're buying, how much it costs. Even at the grocery store, you're going to buy groceries to eat. And that's important. When the bill comes at the restaurant, they all actually want to see it. They want to see how much everything was, what the tip's going to be, the tax. They want to see what it is. And it's so helpful for them. Maybe the next time they don't order they do. They order the strip steak and all that stuff. But they're more aware of the costs of everything. And they do ask permission, which I love. And that's something's important because they see the bill. They'll say, Mom, can I get this? I know it's expensive, which I love that.
So we're going to Deerfield in a few weeks. We go to our favorite French restaurant down there for lunch. Excuse me, Mr. Waiter, can we have 8 French onion soups as an appetizer? And can we have strip steaks and all?
Of that too.
I mean, it's delicious. But when you get a $300 bill for lunch and you show the kids, they're like, I'm like, yes, it's $300. Was it worth it? It's an experience, but at least they can have control over their actions and say, you know what? Maybe we get 4 French onion soups, or, that was worth it. So just letting them know what's going on is
super important to be open and let them be part of that conversation, like I said.
Number 7 is delay gratification. And this is what a lot of adults need to do, that instant gratification. That's why social media is so prevalent. Bing, 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 likes and reshares and all that. That's not what life is all about. To be truly successful, you have to delay gratification. That's why for me, I have never bought something on credit for whether it's a couch or going on vacation and then saying, I'm going to pay it off. If I don't have the money for that event that I don't need another couch. I don't need a vacation. If I don't have that money saved or I can't pay it off, then I'm not going to do it because it's going to put me in the hole. And that's how I want everyone to think. If we can delay gratification, if we can build our business and look down the road, look to the future, we're going to be much happier. We're going to be much more stable, and we're going to make much more empowering decisions that way.
Yeah, this is one that I know that a lot of us adults are guilty of too, where we want something so bad and we could get it at any moment on our phone. And that's the problem. We have Amazon or whatever.
Take it off.
Everything. Don't take it off.
Take the Amazon link off. Don't make it is so easy. Make it harder for you to buy that purchase. Seriously, if that's what it takes for you to do it.
Well, we can also try to be responsible.
But trying to be, sometimes willpower is hard. I'll give you an example. I'm eating much healthier now. If in the house we don't have crackers and cookies out on the table, they're hidden and I have to go find them. That's one thing. Try to surround yourself with fresh foods, fresh vegetables all around you, and it'll be a lot easier. That willpower is hard because it's harder to do that. So it's the same thing with your buying consumption. Make it harder. Don't have the credit card saved. Maybe you have to go and get the credit card to make that purchase. That's one definite example
that's
that I would use.
That's a good point. I'm guilty of all of those things that you just said.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why the credit card,
You like that, huh? The next one is number 8, work ethic. The work ethic is really important. I want all you parents out there to show your children that working hard is rewarding. We were being taught, work smart, 4-hour work week. We don't have to work that hard. Yes. The trinity of happiness for me is work hard, work smart, and work with passion. Those are the threes that I'm always looking for in my life. I worked hard my whole life at the restaurant and continue to work hard now. Now that I work smart, I'm leveraging other people. I'm leveraging other people's money, other people's time. And now I'm working with passion because I'm able to jump on a podcast with my wife and do things that I really love to do. So working and having a work ethic is really important. Teach your kids. And how do you teach your kids? By exemplifying the work ethic yourself.
Yeah. And, I'm working without getting paid. So
she keeps saying this. This is a life coaching issue. When we get off this call, I think I'm going to have to start paying my wife a couple $100. But do you see the middle class mentality? She's, first of all,
I just said it because we talked about it.
I can't even afford to pay her for all the work that she does. There's no amount of money that I could pay her to do what she does. So we can't even go down that road. So
what I want to say is that, the kids see the work that I do in the house. And I don't sit there and complain, look at all this laundry I have to do. You know what I mean? Because that actually does affect them. Because if I do that, they're not going to want to, first of all, they're not going to want to have a family if they see how much work it is. But I have to be super careful on being positive as much as I can. I was talking to my daughter the other day about, she said that I was very calm lately. And it's because I have sleep. So, you know what I mean? It's important to get sleep. It's important to take care of yourself. And we'll talk about that another time as well. But the kids see us working, they see our attitude. And, we've talked about too, is when my husband worked at the restaurant and he came home, not in the best of moods. But when he first started Jake and Gino, the second he walked into his office to talk to Jake to start the company and work on the company, he completely changed his whole attitude. Now he worked the full day at the restaurant and it was probably 8:00 at night. And all of a sudden he was completely fine because he wanted to do that and he was excited to do that. So it's important that the kids see that.
Number 9, give them the power to buy. Give them options. Don't force them to buy something that's cheaper or more expensive. And I'll come back to Sophia once again with the tennis racket. She wanted to spend a lot of money for this tennis racket. It was her money. We went to buy cheaper ones and they weren't that great. And then I said to herself, if this is your Christmas money and this is what you want to do, and now she's taking lessons 3 times a week and she really loves it and she's really into it, I gave her the power to do that. That's her money. She chose to do that. I want all my children to have the empowering mindset to do that. Because unfortunately, our job as parents is to really grow our children and have them make decisions when they become adults, not feel powerless. When they're 18, 19, 20 years old, they need to start making decisions for themselves. If we're telling them what to do every step of the way, how's that going to be? A lot of adults out there that can't make a decision, that have paralysis analysis, that now analyze every single thing. I want my kids to commit to an action and then figure it out and say, this was good, this was bad, what did I do wrong? Pivot and continue to do it. And if you're constantly telling them, no, this is not good, I want you to do this, that's not what our job is ultimately. Our job is to really look over them, give them options, and then give them feedback if they do something good or something bad, and then they can course correct.
Yeah, this is something that we figured out more recently than, earlier, which, I guess it's good that we figured it out. But it's like Gino was saying, to give them an option and to let them be part of the decision making is so important for them. Have them research whatever it is they want, that the big purchase that they want to buy or whatever it is that they're looking at. Have them research it and say, okay, which one do you think is the best value? Which one do you think that you'll get the most use out of? And have them tell you about it. This is the part where we can actually start listening to the kids and hearing what they have to say, the reason why they want to get it. Because sometimes we just tell them what they need, tell them what they don't need, and then they just go off and can't make a decision.
And with that tennis racket, she's got a cover for it. It's in her bedroom. She takes care of it as if it's hers. Number 1, skin in the game. She's empowered. She made the decision herself, and it was the right decision to spend a little bit more money for something that she's going to use for the next 3 to 4 years. Number 10 is the goal. That's the goal. Number 10 is for them to make decisions. So we've talked about that. Let them ultimately end up making decisions for themselves.
Yeah. The big question is, tell me about that. Tell me about why you want to get it. I want to hear it.
Number 11 is play board games. Just play board games. Play Monopoly. I would definitely recommend everyone out there to go out and buy the cash flow game. It is an amazing game. Even kids are younger. They have the cash flow for kids, but buy the adult one. And by the time kids are young, 12, 13 years old, 11, they'll understand it. And it's just a game, and it's a lot of fun. If you can play with them, take your time, explain it to them, and keep it fun.
Keep it fun.
I think that's great. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, I've learned a lot myself on how to teach kids on what a balance sheet is, what an income state is, what a doodad is, what a liability is, what an asset is. This is how you start the conversation, talking about the financial literacy with children.
Yeah. All of this stuff is what's going to get the kids interested, whether it's in real estate or whatever business they want to go in life, because when they don't have this foundation, it's just kind of confusing to them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we want them to learn everything right now. And that's frustrating for them.
The next one is to listen to podcasts. Have them listen to some really cool podcasts, fun podcasts, entertaining podcasts, podcasts on money, podcasts on family, maybe podcasts on financial intelligence. Listen to them. Find one for yourself, one that you gravitate towards to, and one that you like, and let them start listening to it. The next one, number 13, is bring them to events. They need to come to events with you, especially when they get older. My son will come to our meetups down here in Jacksonville. My son has come to our boot camps. Now, the one last year, he was still too young, but I brought him. And at 16 years old, he listened to Bill Ham teaching. He listened to Jake presenting. He met all of the students in the community, and he was part of an entrepreneurial experience that at 16 years old, that's probably shaped his life forever and saying, this is what I want to do. Now, this year's the same thing. He's coming to the Money Mixer with us in March. He's coming to these events, and it's important that you immerse your children at an appropriate age to have them start coming to the events with you.
Well, it's not, and also it's the community that you're in, right? The Jake and Gino community is amazing. So all you out there that are in, you're awesome. And that's the kids for them to be around people like that really does make a difference.
Number 14 is, this may seem pretty not important to most people. I've done this my whole life and I love it. Bring them to the grocery store and they will be shocked at how much stuff costs, and they'll be shocked at all the options that they can buy. I love shopping with my kids because they have to know where food comes from. They have to see it on the shelves. We bring it home. We actually have a garden that we just started again now. It's important for them to understand the value of money, what money costs, and also, hey, Veronica, what do you want to eat this week? So we can choose together, making that decision together. It's really important.
Yeah, no, you pretty much explained what I was going to say. So.
I am that good. I can read her mind. I think number 15, let's do number 15. And I was going to get into this in another lesson, but number 15 is really powerful. And most adults don't do this. It's called the budget. Now I can feel the pain out there. Do I really have to do a budget? Well, duh, you have to do a budget. Why do you have to do a budget? Because when you write down your income, your expenses, and you really get crystal clear on it, don't take my word for it. Dave Ramsey says you save between 15 and 20% more by knowing what that SAT coming out of your credit card is really costing you. And more importantly, maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to spend less on Amazon, but I'm going to go out to dinner with my wife one night and allocate your resources in a different way. Business is all about income versus expenses, the NOI, the property, net operating income. And so is your life. And if you're running your life like your business and you want to increase more income, well, what do you need to do? That's what budgets are all about. It's not just about the expense portion. It's really about the income portion also. So get your financial house in order, start a budget. When I started one down here in Florida, we had just moved and I was really getting confused on how much we were spending for groceries. So I did the budget for the first few months down here and I'm going through it. And my son, I put an amount that we spend and I put a cap that we do not want to exceed. So I remember we were going shopping across the street and Publix is expensive. So he says to me one month, hey, Dad, we're spending $3,500 already this month. We're ahead of the budget. And I hear my wife in the background go, would you be quiet? And we're all yelling at each other. But it gave him clarity. He's like, wow, there's a budget number. Why do we exceed it? And the funny thing is, it's not just we exceeded it. Maybe we had company that week. We had people come over. We had to spend more money. Maybe we just overspent. What I ended up doing was I ended up going to Costco and shifting my buying preferences. Ended up going to Walmart too, believe it or not. I hate Walmart, but they've got organic stuff and it's a lot cheaper. So my buying preferences were changed. That's taking control of your budget and allocating the money and your resources to where you want them to go.
You know, every time my husband would mention budget, I seriously would cringe. I'm like, please no. It was so painful for me. But until recently, I realized that, of course, it's good for us. And it's how you present it. Maybe your spouse is not on board with you, but it's how you present it, like we were talking about, just like with the kids. You know what? Is it okay if we talk about the budget? I really want to go over that. I want to pay attention to what we're spending because it seems like we're spending a lot more lately. Be aware of the other person you're talking to, whether it's your spouse or your kids, because we want them to be on board. Of course, I should have been on board all along, but I was just so busy with life that that wasn't something that I wanted to think about. But it's so important. My husband would like yell out every once in a while. He would have the credit card statement online. He'd be like, where did you go shopping? But it's important because now I'm aware. I pay attention now when you're going shopping. Do I want the expensive one? Not that I'm going to cheap out on something, but it's important that you're aware of what you're buying and the kids are aware of what you're buying.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
Gino, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. I know that you've been hard at work helping Jake and Gino students do just that using our framework. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
Guys, we've been hard at work growing our community of like-minded investors, and the results of our members has been nothing short of incredible. We're looking to grow this amazing group. What we're looking for is those who want to follow our proprietary framework that we've created. Buy right, manage right, and finance right. Leverage our connections, education, and mentorship as ways to take your business to the next level.
So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of our amazing community, apply to work with us at jakeandgino.com/apply.
We are back. There's a couple of things I want to talk about with the budget. I always talk about with my kids what my burn rate is. The burn rate is basically what I need every month to pay the bills. And it was really a no-brainer to explain to them why we moved from New York to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, our property taxes are cut in half. We have no state income tax. Our utility bills are less. Our insurance for our cars are less. And they can see that as a financial decision, why I did that and why it makes sense. And they can make that connection, especially the older ones. And I'm saying, hey, I'm not paying those more property taxes. That's how I'm paying for your college, by saving that money from the property taxes. So they need to know what you're spending every month. And if they're old enough, you should let them know how much you need to make every month, because once they take off, my daughter, she's 20 years old now. I've helped her create a Google Doc on all the different jobs she has. She makes jewelry. She works at a hotel as a hostess, and she works with Jake and Gino. So she's got 3 different streams of revenue coming in. What are her expenses? Her expenses are really minimal because she's living at the house. And I don't mind paying for her expenses because she's so good at saving her money that I reward her that way. I said, Gabs, you don't have to pay for your phone. No rent, no food, no nothing. You're here. You're doing such a great job. I'm so proud of you. That she's putting all that money and it's all going to her checking account. And that money is growing. And that's empowering to her. But she knows what things cost, but she's got it written down that she's got those incomes coming in every month and she sees what she's tracking every month. And to me, that's empowering.
Mm-hmm. What else, Gino? What else do you have?
I could talk for the next hour on this. So what I want to really do is just wrap this up. In the show notes, I'm going to have Gabriella put all what works for you, so you have a framework of what you can start doing. And please don't feel overwhelmed about all these different steps. We've listed 15 or 16 things that do work. Start picking one at a time and start working on that one at a time and commit to it. And if you commit to it, you'll see how powerful it is. For us, it's all about save right, invest right, and donate right. That's really what's important. To become a role model for your children, to walk the walk and talk the talk, that's really important. You want to learn about money yourself, become part of the Jake and Gino community. See what it is to start investing in yourself, start investing in these assets, start talking about financial education. There's a couple of books that I can recommend for the next show, but if you've got time this week, if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's just a must read. I mean, everyone should have read that book by now if they want to get into any kind of—
They have a kids version, don't they?
They do. They have Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens. That's a good book, but the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book is good for the adults. And I think the other one, really, just read The Richest Man in Babylon. It's not a hard book to read. It'll take you a couple times to read it. You'll get the understanding of what you need to do. It'll give you some action steps. Start saving money. Start, learning the investments. Start dealing with people who are in the space that you're dealing with. That kind of stuff. That's basic and elementary, but that's where you need to start. I can give you books on the next podcast that are more in depth and where you should take it to the next step. But the next podcast, what we're going to talk about is the 3 types of investments, the 3 qualities of a good investment, the 3 types of income. And these are all things that you can start sharing with your children at their pace.
And it's important to remember that, we can't force anyone to learn anything, but it's how we present it. So we could change. We could change on how we view things, on our attitude, on what else? On the way we present it to our children, to our spouse, whoever is really having that resistance, because that's what we can change. We cannot control another person, but we control how we are around them.
So what I want everyone to do is I challenge everyone out there to look at those action steps and pick 1 or 2 and email Julia at juliabarbaro@gmail.com and say, hey, Julia, that's a great recommendation. Thank you. Or, hey, trying that right now. Or, hey, I have this recommendation. And the other thing I'd like to know is whatever kind of podcast you want us to do, any kind of recommendations you have for a show, we love it because we got a couple of recommendations from our Jake and Gino community, but we're always out there looking to share why having a family is awesome and why we really need to be role models for our kids.
Yeah, that's so important to us. So please send us an email.
Jewel, thanks. And
Thanks, Gino.
until next time,
Yep.
everyone, go out there. Let's make it happen.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.